Are you thinking actually like the same, or like how are you want to move at the same time? I am Tom Feldhusen. I'm the head of product for AutoRank. That is a myth. Titles really are powerful in two ways. They impact the marketing of your home. So, when a guest views them, they're a short description of what is special about your home. And the other way is they're incredibly powerful from an analytics standpoint. So it's one of your highest ranking copy components. So it's very important to look at what data and what keywords should be in there and use those accordingly. That's a fact. And I think there's a little bit of a clarification on that term. Usually it's not, I wouldn't call it shadow banning, because if you're paying attention, you should know why you were banned. And it can happen for two reasons. One tends to happen from what they call trust and safety. Those are issues within the home with a guest that might be a bad review or something like that. Those typically are when they pause your listing for a certain amount of time. And generally speaking, you can go into your Airbnb dashboard and see why and work with Airbnb on those issues to resolve them. The second one tends to be more rank-based. So if you have put big blocks on your calendar, or you're just not doing what you should be doing in terms of your content, it wouldn't be what I'd call a shadow ban, but you're basically just not going to show up. The other potential piece there is if you're pricing your home way too high, you likely will not show up as well. It's an interesting one that you could go deeper on too, because there's even another component to that where Airbnb only shows, I think it's like 18 results per page, and they only show 15 pages. So in a given location, if there's thousands of homes, if you're not in the top few hundred, you actually aren't showing up. That's not really a shadow ban, it's just basically based on search criteria for that location. What's interesting though is you can zoom in and out and it will change it, and typically it's fine because usually you have enough search criteria to like drill into, if there's 2,000 properties in a location, you've added enough criteria to get it down to 400. And your dates and availability and other things factor in. But like a lot of times what owners will do is they'll go in and they'll look at just a blank search and be like, I can't find my home. And in that scenario, you're looking for your home amongst thousands and thousands of homes. So a lot of times in those scenarios, you actually won't be able to find your home. But it's not a shadow ban, it's basically just you're not acting like a guest would act, so you're not seeing how your home would show up. Myth. This one, location does matter, but it's one of many, many factors. You have content, you have photos, you have reviews, you have rates, you have booking momentum. So your location is going to help you if you have a prime location, but it's not going to make or break your Airbnb listing. Fact. And the reason for this is photo captions are, as I mentioned, one of many different content components. When Airbnb evaluates your listing, they're looking at hundreds of different factors, and one of them is content completeness. And when you have captions on your photos, that is a extra point towards your content completeness, which will help your rank. Airbnb is trying to understand what your listing is. And adding words and keywords that are similar to what other people are searching for in that location always helps. Fact. When someone's looking at your home, they're trying to evaluate if it will be good for their family or their friends for that weekend. And the more content you provide, the more accurate that content is, the more thorough it is, the more timely it is, the better chance you have of ranking. So when Airbnb looks at your listing, they score you on completeness, and the more photos you have are going to show that. With that said, don't just add photos because you want to add a lot of photos. If you have a lot of crummy pictures of your home, that's not going to work well. If you took a bunch on your iPhone and bad lighting, guests are not going to find your home appealing. It's going to look dingy. They're not going to want to book it. So from a marketing perspective, always use professional photography. That again is a fact. When people are searching, they're searching for dates. And if you have blocked off large chunks of available dates, you will not show up in search, you will not get views, you will not get bookings. And when those three things happen, booking momentum and pace on Airbnb is one of the highest ranking factors. So if you block dates and you're not getting search views, that's going to slow down your momentum and you will drop in rank significantly. If you have to block your dates, you have to block your dates. There's no real workaround, unfortunately, for that. It's the same thing, whereas when you have a great month, maybe because you priced your home too low and you got tons of bookings, that's going to impact you in search the next month because you'll have lost some of that momentum in terms of rank, and it will kind of slow you down. So, really the best option is having very competitive pricing, getting the bookings, but kind of spreading them out evenly over time. I'm going to do kind of both on this one of fact and myth, and not because it doesn't help, but your accuracy score in reviews comes down to many different factors. It's effectively how, when the guest looks at your listing and then stays in your home, how accurate do they think you represented it? So house rules are important. If you say no parties and they try to have a party, they're very important for rules and containment. But in terms of marketing, it's really about presenting your home the best you can without over-representing it. Making sure that that expectation meets the experience once the guest gets in the home. AutoRank can help with your accuracy score with a feature we call Review Fusion. And what Review Fusion does is it looks at your past reviews. So for some property managers, they might have hundreds of reviews for a home. What we do is we look at those reviews, we run AI analysis across all of them, and we find two primary categories. We find things people love about your home that maybe you're not talking about. So maybe there's a hiking trail down the street that you didn't mention in your listing that's great, people can walk to it, or a coffee shop next door that's awesome. So we find those missing hidden gems and we work those up into your content. So one, that gets guests understanding your home better, which leads to better reviews. And the second part is what we call home truths. So these are things that are not necessarily negatives about your home, but things that people should know. And these are things that you can't change. So this isn't a bad cleaning score or something like that. What this is maybe there's a busy road behind your house and there's some background noise. So you want to make sure even some of the slightly negative things, you want to be presenting them. We give you a choice with those. So we let you include them if you want, or not include them, but we've seen analytically that this actually does improve review scores and accuracy. This one is mostly fact. Bullet points convey points in language very clearly. When you have long scrolling paragraphs about your home, it's very easy for people to miss things or glaze over and not read them or understand them. Fact and myth. Emojis are very much a visual marketing tool. I have not seen to date an actual analytical study of this. Emojis, if they help search views or help with conversion, but they are a marketing component. I think one thing just to be careful with is, understand the primary audience for your home. So if you're booking, millennial families into your homes, emojis aren't going to hit the same way as if you're trying to get, Gen Z or younger people. So we have a really exciting feature we call Content Blueprint. And the idea here is, you might have a luxury home, or you might have a quaint little old cottage on a lake. And each one of those has a different tone that you should express to the user and the guest. And what Content Blueprint lets you do is upload several versions of what you consider great copy for that listing. So it might be, the listing you currently have, it might be some other ones that you love. And what Content Blueprint does is it understands the tone, style, kind of pace, and even wording of that listing through our AI analysis. And then when it does output the keyword generated and optimized listings, it's making sure to match that style and tone. Very much like a brand standards guide for your home. So this one is definitely a fact. And it's not only how many amenities you add, but it's the depth of the amenities you add. When you add TV to Airbnb, it's going to ask you additional questions like how big is the TV? What applications or apps do you have on it, like Netflix or Disney, things like that. It's also, for things like internet speed, it's going to ask you, hey, do you have Wi-Fi? And you're going to say yes. And then it's going to ask you another question of like, hey, go do this test in the house so we can get the speed of the internet in your house. And a lot of people, enter the basic amenities, but stop there. And I think what's really powerful with Airbnb is they've built a lot of these components so they can build more trust with the user and the guest. Airbnb gives a really good opportunity to show off some of the smaller things that your home offers that other homes don't.